So Jeff, this is a 74 Buick Apollo, correct?
Correct.
These are pretty rare cars in the area, even in the Midwest. I haven't seen another Apollo like this in this phenomenal shape ever at every car show. The front nose has a similar feel to like an Olds Cutlass and almost has a similar look to like a Chevy Nova too. I know that GM had a similar platform, but how many of these are still in existence, do you think?
Not that many. I haven't seen any online or anywhere. I've been looking for another one to redo again.
What kind of work have you done to this particular beautiful car?
Bodywork, quarter panel, patch panel on the front fender, and the whole paint job.
So what kind of condition was this car in when you first got it?
It was a car in a box.
It was a car in a box, and it took you 3 years to get this to this condition.
Yes.
Now tell me about the motor. What size motor is in this car?
It's a Chevy 350. We've been looking for a 350 Buick or a 455 Buick.
455 would fit this platform very, very well. What kind of transmission is it? Tell me about the driveline.
350 turbos, a little bit built up, and then the rear ends, 10-bolt stock rear end.
What about these headlights? Because I know the headlights are not stock.
That's aftermarket. I seen a bunch of the halos and everything. I went online to find out if I could get them for this car, and I actually found them.
And what year is this beautiful GMC Sonoma?
It's a 1993.
And I can tell it's not stock, so tell me a little about the motor here. What size motor is that?
It's a 350. It's got Vortec heads on it and a competition cam in it. A little extra horsepower, not a whole lot.
You know how much horsepower is kicking out at the rear?
If I would guess, it would be 350, 400.
How long did it take you to get this truck in this condition?
When I first got it, it was wrecked. A lot of parts were missing. It took me 14 months to finish it.
It only took you 14 months to do this whole truck?
Just in my spare time. Saturdays, Sundays.
And it's a labor of love to spend that much time doing this much work. The flames are phenomenal on it. These even on the inner tire wells or wheel wells of this truck at all. I mean, it's a beautiful job. Anyone help you out with that?
I have a friend that does flame work, and he helped me with the flames. Everything else I did myself.
Now talk to me about the interior. What did you do differently with the interior?
I had to make a dash cluster, so I bought Equus gauges and made a dash cluster out of stainless steel, and then I put racing seats in it.
How many car shows have you put this truck in?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40. We brought home 35 awards with it.
35 awards in how much time?
In less than 2 years.
In less than 2 years, this truck has taken in 35 trophies.
Yes.
What was the best trophy so far?
The best one is World of Wheels.
What place you placed in?
We took first place in modified mini truck.
You took first place with this beautiful truck at World of Wheels?
Yes, last year.
All right, here we are with Sam Crowley here with his beautiful 1933 Chevy pickup truck. Sam, do me a favor and tell me a little bit of story about your truck here.
Yeah, I bought the truck in 2001, and this October I'd be owner of it for the past 15 years. I really didn't start showing it until 2011, and within that time I would be more or less trying to do a little bit of restoration on the truck, figure out what exactly I did have in case, and that's the way it turned out.
I know the motor's not stock,
No, it's
so tell me a little bit about the motor. I noticed you got some dual quads going on here.
Yeah, it's a 1972 Chevy engine. It's got Corvette heads on it. When I got the truck originally, it had a single carburetor on it, and I liked the old Grasser nostalgia look, so I put the dual quads with the scoop on it.
Excellent. I like how you went old school with the kind of little bit of look with the dual quads. It gives it a nice touch. Tell me about the paint color on it, though, because I don't think it's a 1933 color, though, is it?
No, it's not. It's a 1976 stock GM color called bright metallic green.
Excellent. Now, with the interior, once again, not a stock interior on this truck here. It's kind of cool. I like how you did the piping with the color of the purple on it. It matches the outside piping you got here. What material did you use on the inside?
That's a tweed interior, which sort of dates the truck being built back in about the late 80s, early 90s.
Now, did you build this by yourself, or did you have any help?
No, I had help. The engine I done myself.
Rough about how much horsepower you got in that?
I would say 300, 350.
That's pretty respectable. Tell me about your car here, this beautiful red 1940 Ford Coupe.
I've had it for quite a while. It's the joy. It's a big boy toy. It's something my wife let me to do. But I traded a 1963 Thunderbird even for it, and it was all done. It was a rotisserie job that had that done. This car has a chopped top, which is chopped 2.5 inches. It's completely custom, done professionally by a custom builder. And the frame was an Art Morrison frame out of Washington. It's got a Mustang 2 front end, so it's got rack and pinion steering. The inside is all leather, and the trunk is even leather lined.
What condition was the car in when you bought it?
Just like it sits. I bought it all done, and I bought it because I was really intrigued by the car. You don't find a Midwestern car that looks like a California car, and I wanted one of these when I was young, couldn't afford it, and I'm not sure I can now. But I drive it. If I have an excuse, I drive it every day.
What kind of motor is in this car?
It's a chromed Chevy 350 small block. And it's got what looks like a stick. When you look inside the car, it looks like a stick, but it's actually an automatic.
So you got a Chevy Power 350 and a Ford.
That's right.
That's actually pretty common, isn't it?
It's very, because the parts are so easy to come by. The Chevy parts are cheaper and they're easy to come by.
So Bill, what is your favorite part about the car? The one thing, just driving it, right?
It's just fun, and I've got enough wax and have cleaned it enough that I can park under a tree, get sap, and I'm done in 10 minutes. I just wash it right off.
You and your wife have brought out two immaculate cars today, and that's the reason I wanted to interview you guys here, because you don't see a husband and wife pair with a 63 and a 64 Chevy 2 Nova in these conditions. These cars are phenomenal.
Thanks.
Tell me about your car, because your car was the first one to be done, right?
Yeah, I bought it off of one of my dad's mechanics. My dad was mechanic at Ridgeway Chevrolet for 38 years, became service manager, and one of his mechanics, I bought it when I was 16 off him, and for $650. And after I got done using it for a while, I put it in my dad's garage for 15 years, where he raised mice in the back seat.
That's an interesting concept. I never thought you could do that.
No, but he did. It stunk. And then we had it in my barn for another 15 until I got laid off for a few months. I got tired of painting the house. So I started tearing it in the car, and one thing led to another.
How long did it take it to get the car in this condition?
2.5 years. I got a friend that's good with motors and stuff, and another friend that's a body shop guy. And I bought new fenders for it in 1974, so they're genuine GMs. And it's everything, nut and bolt. It's all been done.
Frame up, ground up, just...
Well, we put the frame connectors on it. It's got a 4-link system in the back. It's got the tubular upper and lowers in the front, and built up roller motor for mine.
I was just going to ask you, what motor's in this car?
It's a 350. Well, it's all roller. It's got the Edelbrock aluminum heads, 64cc heads, and it runs pretty good.
What made you go with this red color?
Well, I wanted a bright red, but I didn't want an orangey red. And my buddy painted the filler panel between the bumper 3 times before I finally picked the color I wanted.
Let's jump from your car really quick. We'll go back to that. Tell me about your wife's car. Because for 2.5 years you working on your car, she got a little antsy for herself, didn't she?
Well, kind of. She's always bugged about getting a convertible, and not even one like this. But I says, man, I ain't paying that extra money. But I was going through withdrawals from working on the car, and I went and looked at a few. I bought this from a guy down in southern Indiana. Paid $3,700, and it was, talk about a basket case. It was bad.
Were there mice living in that seat too?
No, there was no seats.
Oh.
The seats, there were nothing in this thing.
So eviction notice for the mice on your wife's car.
Yeah, exactly.
This truck behind us. Tell me a little bit about this truck.
I bought it brand new back in 1986. Owned it ever since. Been working on it ever since.
Now, I noticed stock-wise, it didn't come with pinstriping.
No.
Who helped you with the pinstriping on it?
Well, my nephew did a little bit on the front, but the rest of it is done by a guy out of Crown Point. His name is Jody Clark.
Excellent. I like that. I like how you coordinated the pinstriping with the two-tone of the truck. And I noticed also on the front of this truck, the bumper is not stock. What did you do differently with the bumper?
I looked in a magazine, and they had these bumpers that had the driving/fog lights in it. And again, I really liked it, so I bought one this summer, and me and my buddy put it on just about a month ago.
I noticed too, you said the motor's a little bit different than stock. What did you do different with the motor?
Well, I had a 305 in it, and I had it in there for probably a good 20, 25 years, and I had a neighbor that could get me a crate motor relatively cheap, so I went for a 350.
Now let's focus on the beautiful car behind us, which is the 1974 Olds Hearst W30 car, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And tell me about the paint, because the paint's throwing me off here, because typically the Hearst Oldsmobiles are white and gold. Why is this one black?
In 73, 4, and 5, they made them white and gold and black and gold. And that's the only 3 years they made them in white and gold and black and gold.
And this is the first one I've seen that was black and gold. How many are there in black and gold that were produced?
1974, they made 114 black ones.
Only 114 black and gold ones.
That's correct.
How many are left in America?
They know of 5 original ones, including this one.
So what made you want to buy this car back in 1974?
I've been an Oldsmobile person all my life. So I've had 442s, and this is like one step above a 442, and when I saw it, I just had to have it.
Now, what makes the Oldsmobile a W30? What's special? What's specifics makes it W30? Like you get the 442s, this one's a W30.
Anytime you see W30 on an Oldsmobile, it means it's a 455 motor.
Excellent. What kind of horsepower are you getting out of this car?
This one only has 275.
Now tell me about the interior. You said something earlier to me that there has been no shoes ever on that interior.
The floor mats have never been touched with shoes. Stocking feet, they've been covered. They've never been washed with water.
That's pretty amazing there. That's pretty amazing. So when you bought this car back in 1974, what was your dream about this car? Did you have a vision? Was your vision to have it sitting here 42 years later being on camera?
When I bought this car, I bought it to drive. This car has been to Florida, it's been to Canada, it's been to Ohio, it's been to Oklahoma, been to Indianapolis 500 5 or 6 times. And then in 1996, I found out what it was worth, and that's when I quit driving it.
Now, I'm an Oldsmobile fan myself, and I've had multiple Oldsmobiles, a couple 442s. Does this one have the swivel bucket seats?
Yes, it does. They made them 3 years, 73, 74, and 75. This one does have the swivel bucket seats.
Excellent. And obviously the Hearst shifter being, a Hearst Oldsmobile.
Right, exactly. Hearst shifter. Yep.
Tell me about this color of the car, because this is a little bit different than your typical 71 Buick Riviera color.
Well, first of all, when I had a 67 Riv, somebody stole it, so I decided I wanted to get one of these. And I saw this color on an Electra in the showroom. When I talked to the salesman, he said, well, you can't get a Riv that color, that's only an Electra color. So I almost didn't buy the car, and they said, well, you can order it as a special option, pay extra from the factory. So I had it painted this color at the factory, and it cost me, back in the day, it was $119 for the option to change the color.
Now, how many cars in 71 had this particular color on it?
83 Rivieras.
Out of what? You said over 33,000, and this is the only one, or no, 83 of them have this color.
Right, and it's probably the last survivor, this color.
Now, I notice on this car, you've got 2 mirrors.
Right.
So that's a little different, because I don't recall 71s having a passenger side mirror.
Right, the 71 did not even offer an option for a passenger side mirror. It had a chrome mirror on the driver's door, but I didn't like driving without a passenger side mirror, so I put 2 General Motors sport mirrors on it that it painted to match the car.
I do love the boat tail windows on and the way that the back of this car looks. It's extremely sexy. The body lines, the points of the grille, the points of the front end. It's a beautiful car. Dominic, do me a favor. Tell me about this phenomenal truck.
It's a 1962 Corvair Chevrolet Greenbrier, standard, 6-door, quote unquote. It says it doesn't have the optional 2 left side doors. Greenbrier, which was technically America's first minivan.
First minivan.
What we're looking at today is an original 24,000 mile truck that was originally ordered from South Heights Fire Department for the fire chief's vehicle / support vehicle in case of a major fire.
So this was the fire chief support vehicle, original back in '62.
Correct.
And you said it had 24,000 miles on it?
It currently has 24,300 miles on it.
Now you also said it's got the markings of where the CB used to be, correct? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Since this was a support vehicle for the fire department, they're going to have communications back and forth, and this wasn't, back in a time when they didn't have cell phones and GPS, so they had pretty large fire equipment. So the dash still retains some of its original labeling left over from the stickering that says siren, horn, and lights for the switches. The switches are long gone, but the decals still sit there.
Now, you told me a story that this, when it was ordered, it only had one front bench seat. How did you come across the remaining 2 seats?
The second seat was actually purchased by the previous owner. The third seat I acquired from a collector in Wisconsin and actually had an NOS 62 rear seat for this.
NOS
New old
original.
stock. Yep.
Wow.
Brand new and 2 boxes out of GM. A little dusty, but yes, he still had it. So.
Tell me the year, make, and model of this beautiful Monte Carlo.
It's 84 Monte Carlo SS Pro Street.
I'm noticing this is not your typical stock motor in the vehicle.
No, sir.
And no, tell me what size motor's in there?
It's a 477 cubic inch big block.
That's not your typical grocery getter, taking grandma to the grocery store, is it?
No, unless you want to get groceries really fast.
Tell me, how long have you had the vehicle?
It was built in 2012.
All right, perfect. And what kind of condition was this car in when you got it?
The body was pretty close to what it is now. We just stripped it completely down, built the race car, put the cage in it, did some minor body work to get the waves out of the body, painted it, and this is what we came up with.
Now tell me about the color of the vehicle. Is it stock GM or is it something you guys picked out?
It is a stock GM color. It's actually the original color of the car. We just put a little bit of pearl and a tiny bit of metal flake in the car to make the paint pop a little bit more.
It looks phenomenal. It's a great paint job. I like that. I like the cowl induction hood and everything too. Give me a little bit more info on the motor here real quick.
It's a 477 cubic inch big block Chevy. It's 14.5 to 1 compression. It's got the aluminum heads and a big Howard cam. It makes just a hair over 800 horse.
Just over 800 horse at the flywheel or the rear wheels?
At the flywheel.
Excellent. Now what about the transmission?
It's a turbo 400. It's got a reverse manual valve body and a trans brake and an Ultra Bell on it.
What kind of rear gear you got in this thing?
It's got a 411 in it. It's completely Strange. It's all built by Strange.
Excellent. What size motor are you guys thinking about going to now?
Next year it'll have a 632 in it.
632. So definitely 130 on the track is no longer, huh?
No. We're going to try to see if we can go in the 8 seconds on motor.
You're trying to go an 8-second car?
Yes, on motor, no nitrous oxide.
Tell me about this fantastic looking 54 Oldsmobile Rocket.
The paint on this car, it was done a little over a year and a half ago by a shop out in Kankakee called G&M Garage. They basically, they're more of a restoration of old cars, trick paint jobs like that and stuff like that.
Love what the paint shop did with the roof of this car with the metal flake and all that.
Right.
That's
the gentleman that did it, he does a lot of lowriders and cars like that.
Yep.
And that's why it's kind of got the lowrider look to it in a way and stuff, because they're really known for that.
It definitely matches that theme, especially
Yeah.
on a beautiful vehicle like this.
Yes.
You see a lot of them dropped, slammed to the ground. I kind of like how the stance on this
Yes.
with the look, and the interior has got a phenomenal look to it with the white interior. Now, what motor is in this car?
This here has a 350 Chevy with the turbo 350 transmission.
Excellent. Any kind of performance parts under the motor?
Not really. I'd open the hood, but it's kind of ugly under there. It's basically stock.
Okay.
It's a cruiser. These cars here, they build these cars to put miles on them. They're not just to go from car show to car show. They drive these cars.
Tell me about this beautiful truck that we are standing right next to.
It's a 1959 Chevy Apache. My father bought it in the early 90s and restored it. Then he used it at his little hobby farm to haul hay. He had it for a while, had it stored in his barn. Somebody broke in, stole all his tools. He lost interest in it and sat down there for 10 years. So I went down to get it. It was actually a barn find because it's sitting in a barn full of dust, full of pigeon crap and all that
It
stuff.
still counts.
Yeah. My buddy and I went down, got it started, got it running, filled up all the tires, got in it to move it, pushed my foot down on the brake pedal, and went to the floor and stayed. Shut everything off again. Started looking around, opened the master cylinder, there was no brake fluid in it. So we went down to the local hardware store, bought a can of brake fluid, brought it home, poured it in, closed it back up, and drove it home.
Now tell me about the motor here. What size motor is in this truck?
It's a 1965 327.
Any modifications to it, any cams or anything, or just kind of your basic?
It's pretty much stock. It was a high-performance motor at the time.
What is so special about a Crosley pickup?
Well, Paul Crosley, who made the car, they're America's first micro mini car. They were ahead of their time. They had four-wheel disc brakes, first American car with four-wheel disc brakes.
For a 49 four-wheel disc brake?
Yes. They made 11 models, all on the same platform. 44 cubic inch, four-cylinder overhead camshaft, which was ahead of its time for that day.
Definitely was.
3-speed synchro. They were very inexpensive. At the time, they were between $750 for the lowest model, the sedan, up to $1,250 for the hot shot, which was their sports model. Yes.
Now, what made you want to get into the Crosleys? What was so special about them that you just had to have not one, not two, but 7 in your family?
Well, the first one we got was a hot shot of a friend of ours from California. He raced it at the Newport Antique Auto Hill Climb. We followed him for years and was on his pit crew. He couldn't have it anymore. He got old, 85, so we bought it from him. So that's how we got into Crosleys. And then it just became an obsession, I guess.
Now, talk to me about the interior on it.
My wife and I did all the sheet metal work. It's diamond plate, aluminum. My wife's real good at it. She made the patterns. I just wanted to make it look like a street rod, like they would have done in the 60s.
Tell me a little bit about the car.
Okay, as you mentioned, it's a 42, which makes it kind of rare because most people don't know it, but they only made cars for 3 months. And the end of February, they started making tanks, producing tanks. And the tanks use the same motor and transmission that's in this car. They put 2 in the tanks, and they improved them quite a bit after the war. But in 1941, which this car was built, that was the first year for Hydromatic for the Cadillacs, and they had some problems with them because people didn't know how to shift them. They took the shifter and reverses down below, and they pulled it down real fast, and you had to stop in each gear to pull it in so it would go into gear. And by pulling it down fast, they locked up the transmission, and this was locked up when I got the car. But they made a lot of improvements after the war.
Now, in the time you've owned this Cadillac, you mentioned the transmission was locked up on it. What else? What kind of condition was it in when you got it, and what else did you have to do to get it in this beautiful condition?
It was sitting in a warehouse for quite a while. The paint was kind of tired. We didn't repaint it. It had some chrome pieces that were missing and were wrong. We repaired those. We did some paint repair and rubbed out most of the paint. The chrome was pretty good. The interior looks pretty original to me. What they did in the 40s and into the 50s, people bought new cars and they covered the seats right away to keep them from ripping and that. And actually it held up pretty well. And of course it doesn't have seat covers on it anymore, but they were saved. The car's almost 75 years old.
So you don't usually see that much chrome on the bottom like that.
No.
A couple pieces here and there, but I was going to comment on that earlier. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, and they made the identical Fleetwood 60 Special in 46 and 47 without the chrome on the bottom. And the only other thing they really did, they changed the grille. This has 7 bars. In 1946, they went to 6 bars. And in 1947, they went to 5 bars.
So that's how you can tell the difference in years of how many bars are on the grill, huh?
Right, pretty much.
Tell me about this awesome looking Mustang you brought out to the car show today. What year is it again?
1971.
71 Mustang, and a decal say Mach 1.
Yes.
How long have you owned this vehicle?
I bought it in January of this year.
All right. And there's a cool little backstory with you and this vehicle.
I've been looking for this type of vehicle for a little over 2 years now, 2.5 years. Myself and a couple of friends of mine in the classic car field, we've driven many miles, thousands of miles looking for them in the last 2.5 years, and none of them have come to credibility of what they told us the cars were like over the phone and the pictures and all that. And we drove out to look at them all over northern Michigan, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Iowa, Alabama, Florida. And
so you ran into a couple Picassos out there trying to search for this one where they look really good far away, and once you get closer, they're like, that's not what I want. So for basically the same amount of money, you got this car for what the others that you found online were going at were pretty bad condition.
Yeah. for what I paid for this and the other ones that I looked at, nice looking cars online, but when you get in person, you know, you had $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, you know, to get them to this point right here, just in repairs, after you're paying the same amount of money that I paid for this.
Now, besides the car being repainted, because you said it was repainted at one time earlier, right?
Yes, I think 8 years ago it was painted.
Any other things that were done besides the paint? You said the motor was original. What about the interior?
Interior is all original. The top is original. Everything is original except for the tires. The motor, everything. Rims are original. The only other thing is the front spoiler that I still have to put on yet. Other than that, everything's original.
As you can see, it's a 68 Sports Fury convertible. It was manufactured on April 1st, 1968. That's what the document showed me. It has 59,000 miles on it.
Impressive, nice.
It's original tranny motor. It's all matching numbers. It's B5 is the color, blue interior, factory blue. To my knowledge, it's the original seat covers, but the carpeting and stuff like that's been changed.
Okay. Now, how long have you owned this vehicle?
We've had the car for 10 years. I was in the market for a parade car, so I saw this on eBay, and I had this car in high school, this style of car in high school, so I got my high school car back.
So you drove this car home from Pennsylvania, and tell me a little bit about that, because it's a pretty interesting story.
Right. Well, I saw it on eBay, so we flew to we took the cashier's check to Pennsylvania. The gentleman drove it 250 miles to get it to the airport. My wife Katie and we got in the car and we drove it. I think it's like 555 miles from the airport to Tinley Park.
So the owner of the car was 250 miles away from the airport that you flew into.
Right.
So if the car made it that far, why not drive it from Pennsylvania to here?
To Chicago, yeah.
Now, tell me a little bit about the motor and transmission. You said it's all original.
It's all original, yes.
Okay. The numbers matching. This is the same motor or a replacement motor?
It's the same motor. Even it's all been redone because we put a mild cam in it.
Okay.
The tranny's been rebuilt because there's even a little shift kit put in the tranny just to
awesome. All right.
To get it out of the hole a little quicker.
Now, how did your wife enjoy that trip home?
She was smiling the whole time. Yeah.
So she wasn't yelling at you to pull over, put the top up?
No. She was having fun. We were having fun.